The conference room fell silent as Ambassador Karen Mitchell stood from her seat. The holographic displays flickered around the circular chamber, casting blue light across the faces of 17 alien delegates. She placed both hands flat on the obsidian table, her knuckles white with controlled fury. "We're done here," Karen said, her voice cutting through the stunned silence. The Vraxian delegate, a towering insectoid creature named Zekthor, raised 3 of his 6 arms in what passed for confusion among his species. "Ambassador Mitchell, you cannot simply abandon these negotiations. The treaty requires good faith," Karen interrupted. "Something this council seems incapable of providing." She tapped her wrist device. Behind her, the other 2 human diplomats, Lieutenant Commander Greg Palmer and Dr. Lisa Chen, began gathering their data tablets. The motion sent a ripple of alarm through the alien representatives. Counselor Mirashaw, a being of pure energy contained within a crystalline framework, pulsed an urgent orange. "Please reconsider. 3 months of dialogue cannot end like this." Karen's laugh held no humor. 3 months of insults, you mean? 3 months of your council treating humanity like children who stumbled into adult affairs. He swept her arm toward the assembled delegates. "You demanded we dismantle our defense grid. You insisted we surrender our colony rights in the outer reaches. You even had the audacity to suggest we needed supervision for our expansion efforts." "Your species is young," the Kalthari representative hissed through translators. "Merely 2 centuries since achieving faster-than-light travel, we have governed this galaxy for 10,000 years. And in those 10,000 years, how many wars have you fought?" Greg asked, looking up from his tablet. The question hung in the air like a challenge. No one answered. 47, Lisa provided, pulling up the data. 47 major conflicts. 6 resulted in planetary extinction events. Your wisdom has a body count in the trillions. Zekthor's mandibles clicked in agitation. Ancient history. We have learned from our mistakes. That is precisely why we established protocols for emerging civilizations. To prevent the chaos your kind could unleash. Karen reached into her jacket and pulled out a slim data chip. She placed it on the table with deliberate care. "This contains our formal withdrawal from the Galactic Council's jurisdiction. Effective immediately, humanity will pursue its own path. We came here hoping for partnership. Instead, we found arrogance and contempt." "You are making a grave error," Mirashaw warned, her crystalline form shifting to an angry red. "Without council protection, you will be vulnerable. There are hostile forces in the galaxy that you failed to stop for millennia," Karen finished. "We've reviewed your records, Counselor. The Kryn swarm attacks freighter convoys monthly. The Void Reapers operate with impunity in 6 sectors. Your protection is a joke." She moved toward the exit, her team following. The chamber erupted in overlapping voices, some pleading, others demanding, a few making thinly veiled threats. Karen paused at the doorway and turned back. "Here's what you don't understand about humans," she said. "We don't need your permission to exist. We don't require your approval to grow. And we certainly don't accept being treated as inferior by those who've accomplished so little with so much time." Her eyes swept across each delegate. "When you're ready to speak to us as equals, you know where to find us. Until then, stay out of our territory." The door sealed behind them with a hydraulic hiss, leaving the Galactic Council in chaos. Outside, as they walked toward the docking bay, Greg exhaled slowly. "That felt good," he admitted. "It's going to get complicated now," Lisa warned. Karen's jaw set with determination. "Let it." Earth didn't claw its way to the stars just to bow before anyone. Behind them, in the chamber, the Council was beginning to realize that humanity's withdrawal might be the worst mistake they'd allowed to happen in their entire history. The Valkyrie-class diplomatic ship cut through the darkness of space, its sleek hull reflecting the distant stars as it departed from Council Station 12. Inside the command deck, Karen stood before the main viewport, watching the massive station shrink behind them. "Ma'am, we're receiving 73 hail requests from the Council chambers," the communications officer reported, "and approximately 200 more from individual delegate ships." "Ignore them all," Karen ordered without turning around. "Set course for Earth. Maximum burn." "Aye, ma'am. ETA 6 days at current speed." Greg approached from behind, 2 steaming cups in his hands. He offered one to Karen. "Coffee. Figured you could use it." She accepted gratefully, wrapping her fingers around the warm ceramic. "Thanks. How's Lisa doing with the data compilation?" "She's organizing everything we gathered over the past 3 months. Every condescending remark, every unreasonable demand, every time they talked over us or dismissed our concerns. Greg took a sip from his own cup. It's a damning collection. Karen finally turned from the viewport. The stress lines around her eyes had deepened over the past weeks, but there was also something else there now, something like relief. Good. The Senate will need to see exactly why we walked away. Some of them won't like it, Greg noted. Williams can watch the recordings, Karen said flatly. Williams can watch the recordings, Karen said flatly. Let him count how many times Zekthor referred to us as the juvenile species. Let him listen to Mirashaw explain why humans aren't emotionally mature enough for full voting rights. The ship's automated systems chimed softly as they cleared the station's gravity well. On the main display, the navigation computer plotted their route through Council space. It would take them through 4 different territorial zones before they reached neutral space, then 3 more days to human-controlled sectors. What do you think they'll do? Greg asked quietly. The Council, I mean. After they calmed down, Karen considered the question. They'll convene emergency sessions, argue among themselves about who's to blame. The Vraxians will insist this proves humans are unstable. The Keltharians will claim they warned everyone about accepting us too quickly. Nirashah will probably propose sending a delegation to Earth with some modified version of the treaty, thinking we'll be desperate enough to accept scraps. And when we don't, that's when things get interesting. Karen moved to the tactical display, bringing up a galactic map. Human territory appeared in blue, a modest cluster of 42 star systems in the Orion Spur. We are small compared to Council members. The Vraxian hierarchy alone controls 300 systems, but we're growing faster than any species in recorded history. Greg studied the map. The expansion rate worries them. It terrifies them, Karen corrected. In 200 years, we've gone from 1 planet to 42 systems. We've established colonies that are thriving, not just surviving. Our technology development curve is exponential. They look at us and see what they used to be, except we're doing it better and faster. Pride before the fall, Greg muttered. Except we're not falling. That's the problem. Karen zoomed in on the border regions. Look here, along the rimward edge of our territory, we're butting up against unclaimed space that the Council considers too dangerous to settle. The Kryn Swarm Zones. I remember the briefings. The swarm has been active in that region for 500 years. The Council lost 6 colony attempts before they gave up and declared it a dead zone. Karen smiled, and there was steel in it. Commander Jake Harrison's fleet has been running survey missions there for 8 months. He's identified 17 habitable worlds, mapped the swarm movement patterns, and developed countermeasures. He thinks we can establish a foothold within the year. Greg's eyebrows rose. The Council doesn't know about this. The Council stopped asking about our activities when they decided we were too primitive to accomplish anything noteworthy. Karen closed the display. That's their first mistake among many. A priority alert flashed across the communications panel. The officer on duty straightened. Ma'am, we're receiving a direct transmission. It's tagged as maximum priority from Earth Command. Put it through my ready room. Minutes later, Karen sat before a holographic projection of Admiral Henry Foster, commander of Earth's United Fleet. His weathered face bore the scars of the Mars Rebellion, a thin white line running from temple to jaw. Ambassador Mitchell, he greeted, I've received word from our intelligence division. The Council is in complete disarray. Good, Karen replied. They should be, there's more. The Keltharian delegate apparently suffered some kind of breakdown after you left. Started ranting about human arrogance and the need to teach your species respect. Admiral Foster's expression hardened. He called for economic sanctions. Blockade of human trade routes. Karen felt her pulse quicken, but kept her voice steady. How did the vote go? Didn't happen. The Vraxian representative shot it down immediately, said it would be seen as an act of war. Smart bug, Greg muttered from his position by the door. Admiral Foster continued, but there's a faction forming. The Keltharians, the Zephyr Collective, and the Morlanthian Empire. They're pushing for what they're calling corrective measures. They want to demonstrate that leaving the Council has consequences. Let them try, Karen said. Our trade with Council species amounts to less than 8% of our total economic output. We've been diversifying for years. I know, but there's something else. The Admiral leaned forward. The Aroran Commonwealth has reached out through back channel. They want to open private negotiations with Earth. No Council involvement. Karen exchanged glances with Greg. The Auroran Commonwealth was one of the oldest members of the Council, a federation of 12 species known for their technological advancement and cultural sophistication. They rarely took sides in Council politics. What are they offering? She asked. Technology sharing, cultural exchange, and something they're calling strategic partnership. Admiral Foster's tone carried weight. Ambassador, the Aurorans have quantum-fold drives. Their ships can cross the galaxy in weeks instead of months. If they're willing to share that technology, Karen's mind raced through the implications. It would change everything. Our expansion rate would triple, maybe quadruple. And it would prove that we don't need the Council, Greg added. If we can form alliances independently, the whole power structure shifts. There's a catch, Admiral Foster warned. The Aurorans want something in return. They're facing increased aggression from the Void Reapers in the Outer Dark. They want access to our military technology, specifically our kinetic weapons and cyber warfare capabilities. But Karen understood immediately. The Council had strict regulations on weapons development, protocols established thousands of years ago when they'd nearly destroyed themselves in civil wars. Most species relied on energy-based weapons, elegant but limited in certain tactical situations. Humans had taken a different path, combining old and new approaches to warfare in ways that made Council members uncomfortable. The Council would see that as a violation of the non-proliferation agreements, she said. We're no longer bound by Council agreements, Admiral Foster reminded her. As of your withdrawal, we're an independent power. We can make our own deals. Karen stood and paced the small ready room. Through the viewport, stars streaked past as the ship maintained its FTL velocity. If we do this, if we form an alliance with the Aurorans and share military technology, the Council will view it as a hostile act. They view everything we do as hostile, Greg pointed out. We breathe too aggressively for their taste. He's not wrong, the Admiral agreed.
Ambassador, I need your recommendation. The Senate is waiting for your report, but this Auroran situation requires an immediate response.
They've given us 48 hours to decide. Karen stopped pacing and faced the hologram directly. What's President Martinez's position? She's leaving it to you. You're the one who just spent 3 months dealing with Council politics firsthand. Your call carries weight right now. The weight of the decision pressed down on Karen's shoulders. Accept the Auroran offer, and humanity would take a giant leap forward in technological and political power. But it would also paint a target on their back, potentially triggering the very conflicts the Council claimed to prevent. Refuse and they'd be signaling weakness just as they'd made their bold stand for independence. What about Commander Harrison's survey data? She asked suddenly. The Kryn swarm countermeasures. Admiral Foster nodded. Solid work. The Tactical Division has reviewed his proposals. They think it's viable, but it would require significant military presence in the region. At least 3 carrier groups plus support vessels, and if we had Auroran fold drives, we could position those forces in days instead of weeks. Understanding dawned in the Admiral's eyes. You're thinking bigger than just an alliance. I'm thinking about what happens when the Council realizes we're not just surviving without them, we're thriving. Karen's voice gained intensity. We accept the Auroran offer. We share our military technology. We establish that foothold in swarm space. And we send a message that humanity doesn't need permission to shape our own destiny. Some on the Council will see that as a declaration of war, Admiral Foster cautioned. Then they'll be wrong. Again, Karen moved back to her chair, her decision made. We're not declaring war on anyone. We're declaring independence. Real independence, not the conditional membership they were offering. If the Council can't handle that, it says more about their insecurity than our intentions. Greg cleared his throat. For what it's worth, I agree. We tried their way, we sat at their table, followed their protocols, accepted their condescension. All we got was demands for more concessions. Time to stop asking for respect and start commanding it. Admiral Foster studied them both for a long moment. I'll inform the President of your recommendation. She'll need to address the Senate within the hour. Tell her something else, Karen added. Tell her that the Council is about to learn a hard lesson. You can't treat humans like children and expect us to thank you for it. Our ancestors didn't conquer Earth by accepting limitations. They broke through every barrier put in front of them. The galaxy is just a bigger playground. The Admiral's stern expression cracked into a slight smile. I'll pass that along. Foster out. The hologram dissolved. Karen sat in silence for a moment, feeling the magnitude of what they'd just set in motion. Greg moved to the viewport, looking out at the stars. No going back now, he said quietly. There never was. Karen replied. The moment we developed FTL, we were always going to end up here. The only question was how long it would take the galaxy to realize it. Back on Council Station 12, Counselor Mira Shah floated in her private chambers. her crystalline form pulsing with agitated colors. Around her, holographic displays showed data streams from across Council space, reports, analyses, and increasingly urgent communications from member species demanding explanations. The door chimed. "Enter," she commanded, her voice emanating from resonators built into her containment framework. Zekthor entered, his exoskeleton clicking against the floor. "The vote is scheduled for tomorrow morning. The Keltharians are confident they have the support to pass sanctions." "They're fools," Mira Shah said bluntly. "Do they not see what we've done?" The Vraxian delegate settled into a chair designed for his multi-limbed frame. Most of the council sees a young species having a tantrum. They think humanity will come crawling back once they realize the consequences of isolation. Most of the council is blind. Mira Shah pulled up a file on the central display. "I've been reviewing human history since first contact. Do you know how many times they've been told something was impossible? How many barriers they were told they couldn't cross?" Zekthor's mandibles twitched. "Many, I assume. 63 major technological breakthroughs in 2 centuries. 63 times they were told by their own experts that a goal was decades or centuries away. And 63 times they achieved it anyway, usually within years." Her form shifted to a deep purple, the color of concern among her kind. "They developed functional fusion power in half the time our models predicted. Their FTL drive is crude but effective, designed from completely different principles than ours. They're not following the established paths." "Because they don't know the proper methods," Zekthor argued, though his tone lacked conviction. "Or because they're creating new methods entirely." Mira Shah expanded the display to show human territorial expansion. "Look at this pattern. Every other species in Council records expanded slowly, carefully, following proven colonization protocols. Humans scatter themselves across dozens of worlds simultaneously, each colony developing semi-independently. It's chaotic, inefficient, and somehow it works. Their failure rate should be catastrophic. Instead, it's lower than the galactic average." Zekthor studied the data. "I'm aware of their unusual success rate. It's part of why the Council wanted them supervised. Such rapid expansion without proper oversight could lead to disaster." "Could it? Or is that just what we tell ourselves because their success challenges our assumptions?" Mira Shah closed the display and turned to face her colleague directly. "I've lived for 3,000 years, Zekthor. I've seen species rise and fall. I've watched the Council guide civilization across the galaxy. And in all that time, I've never seen a species like humanity." "What are you saying?" "I'm saying we made a critical error in judgment. We treated them as students when we should have recognized them as peers. Worse, we saw their differences as flaws when we should have seen them as innovations." She pulsed a worried orange. "And now we've pushed them away, right into the arms of anyone willing to treat them with respect." Zekthor stood abruptly. "The Aurorans, you've heard?" "Rumors. The Auroran delegation left the station this morning. Their diplomatic ship set a course for human space." His voice carried an edge of concern. "If the Aurorans ally with humanity, then we lose control of the narrative," Mira Shah finished. "The Auroran Commonwealth is respected across the galaxy. If they legitimize humanity's position, other species will follow. The Council's authority to dictate terms to emerging civilizations will be questioned. Everything we've built could unravel. Then we must stop it. Economic pressure on the Aurorans. Diplomatic isolation of humanity. Whatever it takes." "No." Mira Shah's word hung in the air with finality. "That path leads to war. And in war, there are no guaranteed outcomes, especially against an opponent we don't fully understand." Zekthor's frustration manifested in rapid clicking of his mandibles. "Then what do you propose? We simply accept humanity's rejection? Let them do as they please. I propose we stop reacting and start thinking." Mira Shah pulled up another display, this one showing military data. "Look at human defensive capabilities. Their ships are smaller than ours, less elegant, but they carry 3 times the armament per ton. Their weapons are hybrid systems we've never seen before, and their tactical doctrine is aggressive, unpredictable. They're warlike. Another reason they needed supervision. They're survivors," Mira Shah corrected. "Their planet was a death world by our standards. Extreme weather, dangerous predators, limited resources. They fought their way to the top of their ecosystem through innovation and persistence. Those traits didn't disappear when they reached space." She brought up the final piece of data, and Zekthor's compound eyes widened at what he saw. "These numbers can't be accurate," he said. They're from our own intelligence division. Human industrial capacity has been underestimated by a factor of 10. They have manufacturing facilities we never detected, resource extraction operations and systems we thought uninhabitable. If it came to conflict, she let the implication hang. Zekthor was silent for a long moment. The sanctions vote will fail if I have anything to say about it, and I have considerable influence among the elder species. Mira Shah's form shifted to a determined blue. Tomorrow, I will propose a different course. A formal apology to humanity. An offer of genuine partnership with full voting rights and equal standing. The Keltharians will never support it. Then they can join humanity outside the council structure. See how they fare trying to compete rather than cooperate. Mira Shah moved toward the viewport, looking out at the vast station that represented centuries of interspecies collaboration. The galaxy is changing, old friend. We can change with it, or we can be left behind. I know which path I choose. As Zekthor departed, Mira Shah initiated a secure communication to the Auroran delegation. If humanity was going to reshape galactic politics, better to be part of that reshaping than a casualty of it. The counselor had not survived 3 millennia by clinging to failing strategies. Adaptation, she had learned long ago, was the key to survival. And right now, adapting meant acknowledging a truth the council had refused to see. Humanity was not a problem to be managed. They were a force to be reckoned with. 6 days after departing Council Station 12, the Valkyrie dropped out of FTL at the edge of Earth's solar system. Karen stood on the command deck, watching through the viewport as their home star grew larger, a familiar yellow point becoming a blazing sphere. Home, Lisa said softly, joining her at the viewport. Never thought I'd be this happy to see it. Communications, get me Earth Command, Karen ordered. Let them know we've arrived. The response came within seconds. Admiral Foster's voice crackled through the speakers. Welcome back, Ambassador. The President wants to see you immediately. She's called an emergency session of the Senate. You'll be testifying in 3 hours. Karen glanced at the chronometer. We're still 2 hours out from orbital approach. Shuttle is already launching to intercept you. She's not waiting. There was a pause. Karen, you need to prepare yourself. The political situation has gotten complicated. How complicated? The Auroran ambassador arrived yesterday. She brought schematics for the full drive as a gesture of good faith. The technology division is calling it revolutionary. But the Keltharians sent a formal complaint to every human colony, calling the alliance a violation of galactic peace protocols. Senator Williams is leading a faction that wants to apologize to the council and negotiate our return. Karen felt her jaw tighten. We've been gone less than a week. That's politics. Some people never liked the idea of independence. Now they're using the Keltharian complaints as ammunition. Admiral Foster's tone turned serious. You need to give the testimony of your life up there. The Senate is evenly divided. If Williams sways enough votes, President Martinez might be forced to reconsider the whole thing. Understood. What about Commander Harrison's mission? Proceeding as planned. His fleet is in position to begin the swarm space operation, but he's holding pending political approval. If the Senate votes to rejoin the Council, all expansion operations halt. Karen closed her eyes briefly, gathering her thoughts. Everything they'd worked for, the stand they'd taken, could be undone by politicians who'd never sat across from the Council and felt the contempt in every word. The shuttle's docking in 15 minutes, the communications officer reported. Prepare my files, Karen told Lisa. Every recording, every data point, every insult. If Williams wants a fight, we'll give him one backed by evidence. The Senate chamber was a semicircular amphitheater, its walls lined with screens displaying the flags of 42 human colony worlds. 200 senators filled the tiered seats, representing constituencies from Mars to the newest settlements at the edge of explored space. At the center stood the testimony podium, a simple platform with a holographic projector. Karen walked to the podium, feeling the weight of 200 pairs of eyes following her movement. President Martinez presided from the high seat, her expression carefully neutral. To the right sat Senator Williams, a distinguished man in his 60s, with silver hair and the confident bearing of someone who'd never doubted his own importance. Ambassador Mitchell, President Martinez began, her voice carrying through the chamber's acoustics. You stand before this body to provide testimony regarding the breakdown of negotiations with the Galactic Council. Before we begin, I want to remind everyone present that this session is being broadcast across all human colonies. The decisions we make today will echo for generations. I expect dignity, respect, and above all, truth. She nodded to Karen. You may begin. Karen activated the holographic projector. The first image appeared above the podium, the council chamber, filled with alien delegates. Senators, I'm going to show you exactly what happened during our 3 months of negotiation. No interpretations. No political spin. Just facts. The first recording played Counselor Mirashaw's voice filled the chamber. Your species has potential, but potential without wisdom is dangerous. The council must oversee human expansion to prevent catastrophic mistakes. Karen let it play for 30 seconds before pausing. This was day 1. The opening statement. Notice the framing. Not an offer of partnership, but a declaration of oversight. We weren't there as equals. Senator Williams stood. Madam President, the counselor was expressing legitimate concern. Humanity is young compared to species that have traveled the stars for millennia. Accepting their guidance isn't submission. It's wisdom. Then let me show you what that guidance entailed. Karen pulled up the treaty terms. Rows of text appeared in the air, highlighted in red. Article 7. All human military vessels must be registered with the Council and subject to inspection without notice. Article 12. Human colonies may only be established in Council-approved territories. Article 18. Any technology deemed potentially destabilizing by the Council must be surrendered for evaluation and possible restriction. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Karen continued. These aren't guidelines, Senator. They're chains. And when we questioned them, this was the response. She played another clip. Zekthor's voice was sharp, dismissive. You are in no position to negotiate amendments. Accept the terms or face the consequences of galactic isolation. That's out of context, Williams protested. What preceded that statement? What provoked such a response? Karen smiled grimly. I'm glad you asked. She played the previous 2 minutes of conversation. It showed Greg calmly, professionally questioning why human ships specifically needed inspection when council members faced no such requirements. Zekthor's response had been the threat. The murmurs grew louder. President Martinez raised her hand for silence. Continue, Ambassador. For the next hour, Karen systematically dismantled every argument for council membership. She showed recordings of delegates interrupting human speakers, dismissing their concerns and making barely veiled references to humanity's supposed inferiority. She presented data on council military failures, economic inefficiencies, and political corruption. She demonstrated how the proposed treaty would have crippled human expansion and technological development. Then she delivered the final blow. Senators, some of you believe that leaving the council was a rash decision, that we should have shown more patience, more diplomacy. So let me share something that happened in the final session before our withdrawal. The hologram shifted to show a private meeting, recorded by Karen's personal device. The Keltharian delegate sat across from her, his reptilian features twisted in what might have been a smile. His voice was cold. Your people don't understand their place yet, Ambassador. You're tools, not partners. Useful because of your aggression and adaptability, but far too dangerous to be allowed true autonomy. The Council will leash humanity one way or another, either through treaty or through force. Choose wisely. The Senate chamber erupted. Senators shouted questions, accusations. President Martinez hammered her gavel repeatedly before order was restored. That recording has been verified? She asked. By 3 independent analysis firms, Karen confirmed. The Keltharian delegate made a threat accept subordination or face military action. That's when I knew we could never trust the Council to treat us fairly. Senator Williams stood again, but his earlier confidence had cracked. Even so, the alliance with the Aurorans is provocative. We're creating an arms race. No, Senator. We're creating a deterrent. Karen pulled up new data, this time showing human and Auroran combined capabilities. The Aurorans approached us because they're tired of Council dysfunction. They've been fighting the Void Reapers alone for 20 years while the Council debates and delays. They see in humanity what the Council refuses to acknowledge. We solve problems instead of talking them to death. Their full drives combined with our kinetic weapons and cyber warfare capabilities create a defensive posture that makes aggression against either species prohibitively costly. This isn't about conquest. It's about ensuring that when we say no, it means something. Another senator, Patricia Cole from the Mars delegation, stood. What about Commander Harrison's operation in swarm space? Isn't that expansionism of exactly the kind the Council feared? The swarm space region has been abandoned by the Council for 500 years, Karen responded. They declared it too dangerous and moved on. We've proven we can succeed where they failed. 17 habitable worlds that could support billions of humans. Should we ignore that opportunity because the Council is embarrassed by their own limitations? We should consider the consequences, Williams argued. If we proceed with aggressive expansion, if we align with the Aurorans against Council wishes, we risk it either way, Karen shot back. Bow to the Council and we're accepting permanent second-class status. Every decision filtered through their bureaucracy. Every innovation subject to their approval. Every colony at their mercy. Is that the future you want for humanity? Because I've seen that future, Senator. I sat in their chambers for 3 months and watched species with no ambition left slowly stagnate under the weight of ancient protocols. She turned to address the full Senate. Our ancestors didn't settle for being subjects of kings and emperors. They fought for self-determination. They built nations on the principle that people should govern themselves, not be governed by those who claim superiority through age or tradition. The galaxy is no different. We're not subjects. We're citizens of our own future. President Martinez leaned forward. Ambassador, what do you believe will happen if we continue down this path? Give me your honest assessment. Karen took a breath. In the short term, increased tensions. The Council will make threats. Some species will attempt economic pressure. There may even be limited military confrontations, though I believe the Auroran Alliance will prevent full-scale war. In the medium term, other species will begin questioning Council authority. We won't be the only ones tired of being told how to live. In the long term, she paused. Either the Council adapts and becomes a true federation of equals, or it fractures. Either way, humanity will have secured its place as a major galactic power. And if you're wrong, Williams challenged, if this leads to war that costs millions of human lives, then I'll take responsibility for that failure. But Senator, living in fear of what might happen has never been the human way. We didn't reach the stars by playing it safe. We got here by taking calculated risks and believing in our ability to handle the consequences. The debate continued for another hour, but Karen could see the tide turning. Senators who'd been uncertain were now asking pointed questions about Council overreach. Even some of Williams's supporters looked troubled by the recordings she'd shown. Finally, President Martinez called for a vote. The question before this body: do we authorize continued independence from the Galactic Council, including the Auroran Alliance and expansion operations in swarm space? All in favor? The holographic displays lit up across the chamber. Karen watched the count climb. 98, 112, 137. Her heart pounded. All opposed? 79 votes against. 23 abstentions. The motion carries, President Martinez announced. Humanity remains independent. Ambassador Mitchell, you and your team are authorized to proceed with all planned operations. This Senate stands behind you. Karen felt the tension drain from her shoulders. Around her, senators erupted in conversation, some celebrating, others arguing. William sat in stony silence, his political gambit defeated. As Karen left the chamber, Lisa and Greg waiting in the corridor, Admiral Foster's voice came through her communicator. Congratulations, Ambassador. You just made history. History isn't made yet, Karen replied. It's just beginning. Get Harrison on the line. Tell him he's cleared for the operation. It's time to show the galaxy what humans can really do. 3 weeks later, in a region of space the Council had written off as uninhabitable, Commander Jake Harrison stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance, watching 3 colony ships descend toward a blue-green world his team had designated as Haven. Around him, his fleet maintained defensive positions, sensor arrays scanning for any sign of the Kryn swarm. Colonies report successful atmospheric entry, his first officer announced. Landing sequences initiated. Jake allowed himself a slight smile. Mark this date, people. First human settlement in Council dead zones. Let's make sure it's not the last. The bridge crew worked with practiced efficiency, coordinating fleet movements and colony logistics. Outside, the stars of the outer reaches gleamed with promise. This was humanity's answer to those who'd said they needed supervision, needed guidance, needed permission. This was the future they'd chosen to build. And across the galaxy, the Galactic Council was about to learn that underestimating humanity was a mistake they'd never make again. The first sign of trouble appeared on the Defiance's long-range sensors 3 hours after the colony ships landed. Lieutenant Ryan Brooks, the tactical officer, studied his displays with growing concern before alerting Commander Harrison. Sir, we've got multiple contacts emerging from the asteroid belt. Configuration matches Kryn swarm vessels. Jake moved to the tactical station, his experienced eye analyzing the data.